Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is a video from my backyard plant propagation series. One question I had gotten after the last video is whether I had ever used one of the electronic leaves to do propagation like this. And I have many times. I actually own one here. They're a little pricey. I'll link one in the description below. They are a little pricey. Basically what this amounts to is it has a weight on the back of an arm right here, and what we call an electric leaf that collects water on top of it. You dial the weight in to create a counterbalance behind this leaf. When this leaf gets a little bit of water on it, it goes down like that and turns off your water. As the water evaporates off of this little metal mesh leaf, it goes back up, and when it reaches the top, it opens the circuit back up and turns the water back on, and again, as soon as the water's on top of it, it goes down. So it's basically mimicking the leaf of your cuttings drying out in there. Okay, it's easy. You just plug it into a wall, and then it has the two wires on another wire that go to your valve. It's really very easy, but I would not call it foolproof, and the reason for that is eventually some mold and mildew build up on this because it stays wet all the time. And I found myself, I found that it worked really well for a few weeks every season, and then I would be fiddling with it constantly. And if you ever want to take a vacation or feel like you can leave and not be concentrating on this, this device may not be the perfect solution for you. I'm just throwing that out there. I've used one. I've used it many times. It works great as long as you are able to monitor it, because things can go sideways on you as that mildew or mold builds up on it. It just creates weight on there like that, and it can end up not allowing it to go back up without adjusting the back. I had to pull it out constantly and clean it. Anyway, but here it is, and it's a genius little product, and it mimics, you know, the leaf drying out. It just occasionally it has to be cleaned and monitored. I have some super easy to root things that I'm going to put in the box under my deck from last year. I dumped out the old soil and a few things that were actually rooted in there, and I put in our peat and perlite blend into there. I've watered it in, and I'm just going to stick some easy to root things in there. I've got some Confederate Jasmine and some Gardenias, a few other things that I know will be super easy to root over there that don't really require this kind of sophisticated system. The lantana has rooted, not all of them yet, but as you can see, hopefully that focuses on that. Beautiful roots on the bottom of that. This one right here could certainly spend a couple days out of this house in some getting readjusted to the sun and go in a pot almost immediately. We'd have flowers on this lantana within a few weeks. I'm going to wait for a bigger percentage of these to root before I pull it out of the house. I'll probably have 60% with roots on it at this point. So there's that. The azaleas that were put in last week's episode are callousing. The bottom is thickening up some, so it won't be long before we see roots coming on those as well. But like I say, for today, I'm just putting in 3 or 4 varieties. I'm going to fill that box up, and with things, I'm not even going to use rooting hormone on the things that I'm putting in today. Okay, so what I have here, this is a Confederate Jasmine. This is an evergreen vine, gets fragrant white flowers on it during the summer. They root super easy. I can just cut these directly above the next set of leaves anywhere along this stem, and almost everything on this plant will root. Lots and lots of vines are easy like this, where you can get so many cuttings out of a single piece. Once the material becomes this pliable up here at the top, I don't use it. But this year's growth that's hardened off just a little bit, but I was able to get 5 pieces from that. Lots and lots of vines are this easy to root, where you can you know, just take 5 cuttings off a single piece that you cut off the plant. You can choose to dip that in rooting hormone or not. I think it'll root regardless of how you do that. But you can get so much material off a single plant. I took these at the garden center this morning, put them in my plastic bag, wet them down as usual. But anywhere you want to, you can just cut it above a leaf and maybe leave yourself you know, a couple inches, just like that, 2 leaves in that. This would be true for Carolina jasmine, for any kind of ivy, any kind of climbing ivy, wisteria. I can go on and on, just most vines. Clematis is difficult to root and actually requires a bit of extra knowledge to root clematis, but most other vines are just going to root super, super easy, just like this Confederate jasmine. Again, I'm just cutting it above 1 set and leaving about 2-3 inches, just like that. So there's one thing that I'm going to do today. This is a beautyberry right here. This is a Japanese beautyberry. There's a native beautyberry called American beautyberry. Roots even easier than this one. On this one, I just take the bottom 4 or 5 leaves off in a set and cut it right above the next group, so I end up with something that looks like this. These really don't need any rooting hormone or anything. I can get one more out of this one. I don't want this young, tender growth up at the top, so I just take that off just like that, and this will root easily with no rooting hormone. There's lots of deciduous plants that would root this easily. I would put crepe myrtles in this group. I'd put spirea for sure in this group, any spirea pretty much. But I'm just taking off 4 or 5 leaves at the bottom, cutting right above the next one, just like that. That's what I want my cutting to look like, this Japanese beautyberry. Okay, what else did I put in here this morning? I have some Hydrangea Paniculata right here. This is a PG hydrangea. Again, same thing. I'm going to take the bottom 2 leaves off. I'm going to cut it above the next group right there. Super, super easy. I don't want 2 big giant leaves on it like that, so I'm going to take 1 leaf off the other side. If it was a big leaf hydrangea and it had the big giant leaf, I might cut the leaf in half, but I don't need to on this one. I'll show you right here. Let me do another one real quick. If I take this leaf off right here, as long as I arrange these properly in the rooting house or in the tray where the leaves are all facing the same direction, they'll be fine. If you put them like this, where one of them is completely overlapping the other one, that will be a problem. This one right here, that leaf will dry out and that cutting will desiccate and die. So just make sure they're all going the same direction and they'll end up with some water on every leaf. So that is Hydrangea Paniculata PG right there. The next thing I have is some gardenias. Here's a actual big giant gardenia flower right there. Pretty much anything will root on a gardenia. They're super, super easy. Any kind of cutting like that, that's this year's wood, that's slightly hardened off like that, I might reduce it down to 2 leaves if it happened to have 3 like that one did. Really, even the flimsy little growth on one of these gardenias will root. I tend to not use it because I don't like mixing super tender growth with this, because they'll root at take different amounts of time for them to root, and that's not necessarily a good thing when you're trying to get the entire flat rooted and get it pulled out of the house at the same time. So I'll take that off, but just that little piece right there that's slightly hardened off. Like I say, gardenias root super, super easy. I'll take one more off the bottom right there, and then I'll take that off the top, and there you go. There's another one. If you want to, you can take that down to 1 leaf even, and that'll be fine. Most of the time I can just roll through these gardenias very, very quickly. Rooting hormone would probably help, but I'm not going to use rooting hormone on these because I believe that all these things will root readily without it. So I stuck all of those cuttings without putting them in a rooting hormone into this box that was built last year. It's just a wooden box with a piece of landscape fabric stapled into the bottom of it to allow water to pass through it, and then the peat and perlite mix. It's got this dome. It's just one of those boxes you can buy at any of the box stores. Some holes drilled in it to vent some of the water out. I watered it well. You just don't have to water this very often. I will open it up occasionally and just stick my finger in several spots in there. If it needs water, I'm just going to take the water hose, spray it a little bit under there, and that's it. Really not that big of a deal. All these things are super easy to root. We've got any gardenia, most vines, Hydrangea Paniculata PG is easy to root, and most even Macrophylla hydrangeas, most hydrangeas are pretty easy to root. And then I've got some Japanese beautyberries back there, and most deciduous shrubs like spirea and weigelia and beautyberries like that, and winter honeysuckle, and lots of things that lose their leaves in the winter that are super easy to root, that really don't require much. They can just kind of go in a box. This one happens to be under my deck. People ask me all the time, what if I don't have a deck? That's irrelevant. This box just needs to go in a place that is shady all the time. And then we have to know that we can't take these directly out back into the full sun. Once they're rooted in, we will take the top off of it and then harden them off in the sun. Kind of a part sun, part shade situation for several days, and then work them into the sun over time. And that's how we do it. And so I'm just putting the top back on it and walking away and leaving it alone. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll be back very soon with some additional propagation videos. Thanks for watching.